morning and welcome to the Oh My God Monday edition of Reaper Pro Tips with Monday Quindy, eternally sassed by Twitch, me, your host Anne, and a tiny portion of Justin and John, but really, not really, because they've fled. They fled Twitch, so they've also fled Monday. I don't blame them. Hi, everybody. How are you all? I hope you're having a better Monday than me. My Monday was like, and Monday has totally gotten away from Anne. Oh noes! Yep. Cool, Alan Williamson. Yeah. This one, of course, being a ReaperCon special. We're painting it anyway, darn it. Even though it was ReaperCon only. I keep hoping they'll bring it back. Everyone should flee Monday. Yes. Let's see here. What do I want? What do I want to do today? How do I feel? We did a bit of white cloth last time, and I like that. But I feel like I need more gold today. I think I need some gold and red in my life. So let's do some little micro highlights on some of our red here. And I did some on the feathers already. And I did some on the top of the ribbon, but a lot, and on the band. But I totally ignored that. Yeah, I want to get my red taken care of today, I think, and we'll do some gold, and that'll get us closer to looking done. I think the blue's going to be the last thing we do. Let's see here. Let's get closer. There we are. Haha. Excellent. Technically, we haven't done the white on our little lace on the hat yet, but, we'll do what we can. I'm so done with suboptimal. Me too, Kuroniko. Fist bump. I wasn't punching you. I was fist bumping you. Just so you know. Really. Because punching you would just, be Monday times 2. But really, it was a fist bump. Really was. Let's see here. I need Heraldic Red. Because that's what we were using. Afternoon, Dogfather. So, guys, actually, I didn't check with Bridget, but I didn't hear any news, so I'm going to assume that Zammy is not yet in labor. And I'm going to say, hey, Bridget, is Zammy in labor? Because my stream wants to know. There. Hey, Bridget, my stream wants to know if puppies have started yet. Yes. Yes, Kuroniko, the pup date. Did you get the pup date? I don't remember if you were there, but there are at least 7 puppers in the ZAM. Now, honestly, obviously, and there might be 8, but now, obviously, there's always the risk that we lose a pupper in birth. That happens, just like it happens with people. Although we try to make the risk minimized, but it's always slightly risky to have puppers. So we'll just hope that all the puppers make it through safe and happy. And I didn't check Facebook either to see if she'd started whelping. I haven't gotten a response yet, though. So let me see. Let me run over to our puppy Facebook group, because oh she sent me back a message saying Zammy is thinking about it. She's thinking about starting. She's lying in her whelping box, so she's thinking about maybe having puppies soon, but the ball is still there. So I don't know if she is completely, decided to have puppies. But there she is, lying in her whelping box. You can see the cushion and the rail. Oh, we've entered stage 1. The denning instincts are strong. So, yeah, so this is exciting. So Zammy has been, doing some digging in a corner of the whelping box. That's a denning instinct for dogs and wolves and foxes and coyotes and all sorts of things, right? So, yeah, so we are definitely... Zammy is ready to get these puppies out of her. Just like a human mom after all that time. Yeah, I'm going to say, yay, soon! Just like Quindy, just like you said before the stream started, Quindy, soon! moon. Yes, you don't have to be religious. Just cross, if you're not religious, just cross fingers and send happy thoughts, okay? Send happy thoughts. So, yeah. The stream is thrilled. Is thrilled and can't wait. And neither can I. Yeah, I was just telling David, like, we have some theater stuff coming up, and I'm like, the theater thing in September is probably Anne stays home with the puppy because she's gonna be too young to get a puppy sitter for her. We don't really have any friends that are close to us that could do it. So we're gonna be homebound while the puppy is a baby a little bit. We've been spoiled to be dogless. Lots of blue, yep. Lots of blue. Which is good because, blue. We like blue. Blue's a happy color. You missed the puppy picture, Sagebrush. Or actually, it wasn't a puppy picture. It was the puppy mommy picture. The update. The pup date. The morning pup date. Mindy's betting. Okay, so one of our other really experienced breeders, who is a vet tech, is betting for puppies within the next 6 hours. Ooh, I shall stay tuned. Come on, girl puppies. All right. Excellent. Excellent. So, yes. So, this is exciting. This is an exciting day. By tomorrow. So, Gray Mouser, I'm getting a puppy, right? You know that? Have you been on? Like, are you aware that I'm getting a puppy? Well, the puppies that the litter that I am on is about to be born. Yeah. So, like, literally, I was just chatting with the breeder, and I just showed everybody a picture of the puppy mama that Bridget just sent me. She's been digging in her whelping box, which is a sign that labor is imminent. And there's Zammy again for those who missed. There's my puppy mama. So she's all preggers, and she is ready to get these puppies out of her. And one of our other really experienced breeders, who is also a vet tech, is betting it starts within the next 6 hours. So my puppy may be in the world by tomorrow. There may be tiny Shiloh bean pictures by tomorrow. Zammy is adorable. She's a total goof. Like, she's a love bug and a goof. She really has the Shiloh Shepherd temperament in spades. Yeah, it's thin paint, Dogfather. Thin the paint a lot, and remember to unload your brush. Like, and if you have trouble getting the paint off your brush, where you're still getting puddles or it's not really controlled, then switch to a smaller brush. Because when we're working with really thin paint, which is what you need to get smooth blending, you've got to unload that brush. Even then, if you were here in person, you'd be able to see some of my transitions, but on the camera, it looks very, very smooth. I doubt it, Grey Mouser. I would, Jim at Dark Sword is really the one who tends to do people's pets. But I need to get him concept art. Like if my puppy gets turned into a miniature, then it's more likely to be an anthropomorphic critter. But usually Jim wants concept art, so I may need to actually get my art chops out and get him a couple of pictures. I still need a Kiri commemorative mini, the Kiri the Turkey Thief mini. So. Maybe I'll finally, like, get myself together and, like, I'm just not good with, like, I'm really good at animals, but I'm not good I'm not as good at humans, right? Like, I can do more the stick person, but yeah, that was Kiri's nickname. She was the Turkey Thief. I've always held that Kiri is a rogue, or was a rogue, as far as her character class, whereas Leo was a paladin. And Kiri's most infamous moment was when she was pregnant with her second litter, and it was like Thanksgiving, and we left a plate of turkey on the counter, and I swear we walked out of the kitchen for 20 seconds. Like, that's it. We came back, like, I came back in, and I was like, what happened to the turkey, Zach? Where'd you put it? And he's like, it was right there. And then we looked on the countertop. We have marble countertops, and we saw 2 big paw prints in the countertop, one on either side. And Kiri just looking very satisfied with herself. She was a really good dog, but like Leo would never have dared. Like, but Kiri was chaotic, and she was not a lawful dog. Leo was lawful, and Kiri was definitely like chaotic neutral. And she was like, 20 seconds, go. So if I did a Kiri miniature, I've always said I would do her as a rogue with a big turkey tucked under her arm, like sneaking with a big turkey. I thought that would be like the best Kiri miniature. Also, it would be super fun to paint. Yeah, well, and she was preggers. So, you know, pregger dog, always hungry, because it has lots of little ones. I mean, what you pretty much like double their food intake over the course of the pregnancy as they get closer and closer to the end. And depending on the litter, you may even feed them more than that. So you have to feed the little guys, little puppers, even before they arrive. So yeah, so that was the story of Kiri the turkey thief, and that's the miniature that I've always wanted for her. But yeah, I just haven't been able to find anybody who does that style of a, like, you know, furry commission, the style I really liked, and, you know, who were open and accepting commissions. And I'm like, you know, gosh darn it, I am a freaking artist. I probably could put something together if I sat down and worked on it. So we're going to mix up kind of a strawberry pink highlight. Just like taking a couple brushfuls of our red and putting a little drop of white in it just to get us a bit of a highlight. And then I'm going to do another transfer and do another drop of white. Oh my God, Kerniko. I mean, you can dog father, it just costs money, right? To get miniatures done. We'd all love to get commemorative models done of our pets. You could try contacting Andy Pieper. Like, you need good pictures. But, I mean, Andy loves sculpting animals, and he's really, really good at it. Especially dogs. So, I mean, it never hurts to ask, but you know it will be several $100s. Probably closer to $500 in this day and age. But it depends. I don't know what Andy's rates are. Like, that's totally off the top of my head. Just knowing what a miniature used to cost to be sculpted and then allowing for 15 years of inflation over the top, you know. But yeah, someday maybe Kiri will get her commemorative mini. And maybe the baby puppy will. We have to see what her personality is first, though. You have to determine what the alignment and character class are before you can get a commemorative miniature for your dog. We have no idea on the baby puppy. So I'm just going to put in just like a couple of bits of pink there. I've thinned it down a little bit. It's about 2-to-1. We still want to keep a lot of red on this or it will go pink. So once I've blocked in kind of where I want my highlights to be, I'm going to come back in with my red and make sure that I'm keeping my highlights smaller. So I have a lot of red still. If you lose your red entirely... 7 at least, Crowley. Bridget thought she counted 8. There were some intestine loopings there that were hiding, she thinks, an 8th puppy. So we'll see. She's going to name them after Critical Role characters. So, like, she was like, if she gets 8, then she's like, I have a DM. A party and a DM. Yeah, that's cool. Excellent that you got new paints, lady. I hope you enjoy them. But yeah, so probably over the next, like, if the puppies really start to arrive, like, later today, then we can expect some puppy derailment on stream. We can expect some puppy some puppy pictures, little Shiloh bean pictures. Of course, Bridget's probably going to be too busy to take many pictures. And depending on how fast or slow the whelping goes, it may be into the wee dark hours in the morning. So she will be too exhausted to give us much of an update. Because whelping puppies is not for the faint of heart. I'm going to grab my brown liner here. I want to redraw that line between my gold and my red just to make it a little more solid. Yeah, this crowd might not complain about excess pup dates. Yes. Well, hopefully we'll get at least like, usually like after the first few puppies, you actually have enough brain cells still as a breeder to snap a picture for your social media. So we'll cross fingers that Bridget has enough brain cells. I actually hope that the whelping goes fast for her. Like, one of the reasons we're doing this outcrossing program is because our girls are starting to have more reproductive issues. And so we're hoping that this helps. So let's hope. I just really hope that Bridget, because she's had some difficult whelpings in the past. She's had emergency C-sections before. And I'm really hoping that Zam can come through this one with flying colors. For her sake and for Bridget's. And I do want a little bit of a solid line there. I am going to actually add a drop of walnut to my brown liner. You can do this. Like, brown liner is going to give you a more translucent natural shadow or line. It's going to be easier to control how light or dark your line is by thinning it just a little bit. But if you want a line that is a little stronger even when it's super fine, then you're going to want to maybe add some walnut. Or just use walnut outright, but I wanted this to be a little more versatile, so the walnut is just going to help increase coverage since I thinned this just a bit. I'm going to get a bolder line after adding a drop of walnut to this brown liner. But yeah, so let's see. So if I think it's noon where Bridget is. If she starts whelping at 6, she probably will go to 2 in the morning. But I hope it is. I hope it does start earlier. It's always better when you were still moderately awake. Kiri was always very good to me. She would start whelping at like noon or 1. A lot of dogs wait till the middle of the night. And that's just brutal. There we go. So just darkening that line, creating the illusion there that there's a sculpted area. There is a really fine sculpted line, as I recall. There is on the other side for sure. But we want it to stand out a bit more and have these areas be different. Temperament testing is roughly 8 weeks. It has to be 3 days, within 3 days either way. And that's not so much for the temperament aspect, but for the conformation aspect, for the structure. Because right around 8 weeks is kind of your snapshot picture of how the pup's going to look when they're older as far as like their structure. And structure is important not just for like dog shows and, you know, which puppies get to breed later, but it's also important for like if you're doing performance stuff with your dog, you want a very good sound structure. The better structure your dog has with the least faults, the better your dog will tend to stand up to wear and tear. So if you're doing very active dog sports with your dog, you actually want a dog that's got very, very good structure. We don't so much care about, like, we do care about breed type and beauty, quote unquote, but let's face it, like, all Shilohs are pretty beautiful. So I'm more about, like, does this puppy have, you know, like, like if you have a puppy with flat feet, you don't want to like go jogging with that puppy on hard surfaces all the time. They're more likely to have an injury. Things like that. I actually look at functional conformation, not show conformation. I'm most interested in that. So we'll do that at about 7 or 8 weeks. We've been actually waiting to schedule it to see when the pups were actually born, because they could have been born on a Wednesday or earlier or later, and that would have kind of split the difference. But if they're born closer to one weekend, then we can be flexible. There we go. So just a little lining around the earring there. Some breeders believe in this and some don't, Lady Kachara, but there are essentially a series of tests that you can do on puppies. So at about 8 weeks, some people do them at 7, some people do them at 10, but you can run them through a bunch of tests and get an idea of what kind of personality they've got. Like, you can get an idea if they're a very high energy and high drive puppy. You can get an idea if they're a very sociable puppy, where they're going to be people focused and easier to train. You can get an idea of their like tolerance for little kids by essentially seeing like how well they react to some tests where a little kid might, really, really whap them, or, you can do kind of a simple pain tolerance testing, all that sort of thing. Yeah, it is. For confirmation, it is that tight of a time frame. There's a pretty famous dog person named Pat Hastings, and I've done more than one of her seminars. But she specializes in this. She and her husband, while he was still alive, they've done like thousands of puppies, like multiple thousands of puppies. And for years, they kept records of their evaluations and then went back and revisited the puppies at like 1 or 2 years old to see how accurate their evaluations were. And they mostly do structure evaluations. So it's pretty fascinating, but she actually has like hard data that show that it's more accurate in general to do the evaluation for structure, at least, within 3 days of 8 weeks. No matter what the breed, doesn't matter. But temperament testing is essentially, it takes the random lottery effect out of the puppy you get. So we believe, and I mean, we have very few rehomes, so I really feel like this does work for our breed. But we use the information that we get from the temperament test as far as the puppy's aptitudes, and, we also do a noise sensitivity test so that if your puppy is prone to noise sensitivity, and you can act to offset that, which is very valuable. So yeah, essentially it allows us to suit the puppy for the home, which is why when I start getting pictures of the puppies, I actually won't start getting attached to any of them. Like, there'll be puppies I'll probably think are cuter, right? But all I care about is the outcome of the temperament evaluation, which is good. That's going to determine which puppy I get, not me. Usually with structural issues, they go out as pet. And in America, most of the time they get neutered or spayed at that point. So yeah, they don't get bred. Iffy. It depends on how serious the structural issue. We typically don't see really bad ones. There are things called disqualifying faults that will say, don't breed this dog. Things like an underbite, right? Things like that. That is a disqualifying fault. But our breed really, we aim for just not extremes. And there's like flat feet, I would say, is something that I really don't like and can just lead the dog to issues. So there's certain faults that each breeder doesn't really like that much, but yeah, temperament is everything. I mean, if your dog has a health issue, but it's a wonderful dog, you can still really enjoy your dog. But if your dog has a terrible temperament, but is otherwise perfect, it's still terrible, So we put a focus on temperament. We try to breed for very family-friendly temperaments, easier to handle, usually a little bit lower energy, although we do have a couple of people in our breed now. One breeder that likes to breed more she does performance. She does like agility and disc dog and stuff. So she's probably going to breed for more of an actual, like a dog that can do stuff, which is rarer in our breed, but No, she is actually gearing up though, Age of Marvel. She's displaying nesting behavior, so the puppies may come by tomorrow. You were just talking about temperament testing. Some breeders don't think temperament testing works. I feel like there are different tests, and they probably each of them have like a different like success component. And I think the most important thing is to get a very qualified evaluator, and I think that's the hardest thing. I've had to study. I've pretty much been studying since about 2009. So now it's been about a long time. 13 years of learning to read dogs and read body language and do a good evaluation. So it takes a lot of time as an evaluator to learn. And so I think it's hard to find sometimes. But if you look at guide dog programs, that's your real key. Guide dog programs are extremely successful by employing temperament testing. They're extremely successful in nailing which dog is going to be successful at that job and which isn't. So I actually just started studying a program that is used by some guide dog organizations that is a lot more in depth in some ways than ours is. A little bit different gear. So it's fascinating stuff. So yeah, you have to learn to speak dog a bit. Maybe if we I don't think I've got a video. We do a couple different types of temperament testing actually. I'm just blocking in this big edge here. Remember that when you have a solid edge like this, but that it's really just meant to, it's meant to be thin cloth, but to get it on mold, we had to make this big fill, right? So when you've got this sort of thing, even if it's here on the side instead of underneath, like y'all know that when it's on the underside of something, we just paint it in dark, right? So the underside of her and like this cutoff with the arms going to be like painted in just like walnut or black, doesn't matter. But we do the same here. And since he's continued the trim a little bit there, I'll probably kind of fade it in eventually. Like I'll do some white and I'll like go from the white and I'll fade it into this walnut further down. But I don't want to see that. And look, once we paint it black or near black, it just looks like a shadow then. And that's what it should look like. Like, that's absolutely what you want. Saved for the end show. Thank you, HM Road Dog. Woohoo, 31 months. Awesome, thank you. Word buttons, yeah. Yeah, it really is, Mannix. You're right. Because, it's like you can set the puppy up for success, but then it's the family. Like, it's all on the owner. And that's why a lot of people who will go to a trainer for help with their dogs, like behavioral problems, they have trouble because they have to be trained more than the dog does. Like a dog, if you are consistent with a dog, consistency is king. And if you are consistent with a puppy, you can teach that puppy, or even an adult dog, like the rules of the rules of the household. But sometimes if you have multiple people in a household and they're not all on the same page, or you yourself are kind of a softie and you tend to be a little less consistent, that's where you can get into some problems. And sometimes with some breeds, it really doesn't matter. You can be permissive and the dog is okay, And some breeds will totally take advantage of you. Aw, that's cool. Rescue puppies, yes. Yeah, but cats are infamous for typing things on your keyboard, so they're already like, I think, if I recall, I think Panther once typed dog. Like I stepped away from the WoW keyboard during a raid and my cat typed dog into the chat. I'd forgotten that. That was a long time ago. When he was a kitten and younger, he liked to walk on my keyboard. So I'm not sure whether he was cussing about the dogs or whether he was, actually requesting another dog. I'm not sure. Or saying, hey, dog, look what I can do. There we go. All right. So again, blocking in some dark shadow. I'm keeping the blue there. but I'm blocking it in back here where it's really kind of just fill. So leave a little blue there at the bottom where the light's going to fall. But up in there, you want it to be a lot darker because it's just going to be a real heavy shadow. Well, I think they've proven that dogs can have an immense vocabulary. Chaser the Border Collie was the most recent vocabulary of over 1,000 different toys, just for nouns. That doesn't even count for verbs. She was able to demonstrate that under rigorous, blind, scientific testing. Testing the scientific community couldn't ignore. The hardest thing about that sort of thing is creating a test that science will acknowledge is a good test. As far as trying to prove how smart animals are. Because you have to do it so rigorously to protect against the dog getting any signal. I haven't heard about the buttons. I'll have to look it up. Word buttons for cats, is that what I should Google after the stream, guys? Are used on dogs. Dogs definitely learn words. I mean, I don't know about spelling. They'd have to learn to associate symbols with things. It's an abstract thing. And dogs can catch abstractions. At least some of them can. This would be interesting. Man, I'm making a training list of all the things I have to teach our puppy, in the first few weeks. I'm just geez Louise, this puppy is going into a PhD training program. There we go. Little shadow under the ear. I'm just doing a bit of lining just to crisp some of this stuff up before I put more red highlights on. There. A little bit of extra shadow never hurts. Okay, cool. Yeah. If you want a puppy to be a really, really good member of the family, it's just I don't know. I just want to go to the top on this puppy. I'm I actually will have the time. I actually will only have one dog. So I'm going to do the most advanced training program that I've found that I've been itching to try. Puppy's a guinea pig. Puppy's gonna see. I also am kind of I was thinking about this yesterday, but our dogs were always pretty well behaved, our Shilohs, because they're big dogs and we did train them, we did teach them manners, but what I really would like is a dog that when we come into a new and crowded place, like a park or a dog park or a dog show, any of my dog events where I bring my dog, I really would like a dog that isn't all over the place, boomeranging around on the end of the leash looking at everything. And there's a way to train your puppy from, to reorient to you in a strange and exciting environment. And I think I really want to do that this time. I really want a dog that is really focused on me, even when there's crazy going on. And that's going to be a lot of training. But I really would like that. It would take a load off me to know that my dog would be reliably focused on me and not freaking out in strange places. Oh, bye, crows. Yeah, some people are like that. Animals just really like them. Maybe they're just chill or balanced somehow. The animal is attracted to that stability. Is your husband really chill? Because I don't see it happen with people who are super excitable usually, as far as animals bonding to them. I see it with the really easygoing, like relaxed people, because the animals are attracted to that vibe, just like people are. Yeah, very chill and calm. Yep, that's it. Because that's what your animal wants. Like, your animal feels like that's secure. So if you want to appeal to your animals more, cultivate that energy. The calm and chill in control energy is the energy animals love. I even see it when I go to puppy evaluations. If I sit down on the floor and I get into my meditation mode and I make myself really still and calm, puppies will come to me. Absolutely. So it's not magic. It's not magic. Hey, 32 months, Valendar. Dang. Yeah, only 4 months till the song. By that point, I'll have a puppy. The puppy can learn to sing with us. The puppy's probably going to be like, what are you doing? She'll get chill. Why is Mama singing and clapping? Ah. Yeah, I mean, it would, okay, so you will want a breed then, lady, that's not super in tune with you. This is actually why I tell people that Shilohs are not good service dogs. It's not that our dogs are, like they seem like they would be able to be service dogs, and, you know, but they're so sensitive. Like, some breeds, like Belgian sheepdogs, Malinois, a lot of shepherds, so no German shepherds, no Shiloh shepherds, those breeds are going to be super in tune with you. So if you have anxiety issues, it's going to telegraph to the dog. So that's like something to consider, is you might want a really chill breed like a greyhound, or something that is known for chill. Like, there are plenty of dog breeds that are known for just being kind of like, yeah, all right, you know, but you won't want a dog with a lot of energy, a lot of hyper energy, like golden retriever, maybe not your thing. Maybe a solid lab if you can find a calm one. Yeah. Golden retrievers are often high energy and can be very, very... And so if you have a lot of anxiety energy going on, that can actually backfire on you. If you can find a golden from a program that is super chill. But most goldens I've met have a lot of energy. Like Basset Hound, yeah. Basset Hound's a good one, but the any of the hound breeds that are more chill. Big time, lady, I mean, just do your research, right? Some pit bull mixes and pitties actually are pretty, if you can get the lower energy one. So that's the issue. You need more of a chill one. But anxiety is hard with sensitive dogs because they will feed off of it. And a dog that is at all like a protection or guard dog may react badly. Like, when you are out in public, they may try to protect you, and this is not good. So yeah, you kind of want a more oblivious dog. Like, if you want a big dog, then yeah, get like a retired racing greyhound. Like, those guys always need good homes, and they're great dogs. They're pretty chill and pretty, unless they see a cat or a bunny, then you're kind of like, you better have a hold of your dog. But it depends also if you have other animals in the household. And it really depends on if you're planning to go through a breeder or you're looking at a specific mix, like a golden doodle or something like that, you know, then do your research and figure out like what those dogs are known for. But if you see a dog that that it's a very sensitive breed, that's a breed you probably don't want if you have anxiety. And there are always exceptions, right? I'm going to totally caveat that and say there are always exceptions. But in general, when we have people, because we have a lot of people as Shiloh Shepherd breeders, we have a lot of people come to us because they have anxiety and they want a big dog that makes them feel safe. They would be better off with a Rottweiler than a Shiloh, a well-bred Rottie, frankly, because the Shiloh is going to feed off of that fear and anxiety. So it's actually the worst dog to get if you want to feel safe, if you want a big dog that makes you feel safe. You'd be better off with a Newfoundland. Yeah. Irish Wolfhounds are often extremely chill unless they see prey animal. Like, they will go after deer. At least many of them. The ones I have known would. They have some serious prey drive, but if you're ready for that, or if you don't live in a place that has that stimulus, yeah, you're pretty good. But yeah, just be aware that sometimes the dog you would think would be right for you isn't. So just do your research, do your reading. And to be frank, a lot of the online dog sites that have all the different breeds and talk about all their profiles, a lot of those sites are kind of BS. So I would instead go to a good breeder of that dog, send an email, say, hey, I'm looking for a dog that's X. Is your breed that kind of dog, or would you advise me not to? That kind of thing. Sometimes the AKC pages can be okay if it's an AKC breed. Just be wary. Some of those puppy sites where they've got all the different breeds, the information's kind of crap. They're just cut and pasting, and they're really not doing their research. They're just trying to get your money for their advertising ads. Yeah, always on a lead. Yeah, but you better be ready, right? If he goes off after something, you better have a hold on that lead when you've got 150-pound Irish Wolfhound on it, or 200. I don't know. Sometimes I guess they could get up to 200. They're not the heaviest breed, but they are the tallest. But yeah, I think that getting the right breed, if you're going to get a breed, and even if you're going to get a mix, it helps to know kind of what breeds might be flags. Like if you know that a shepherd might be too sensitive for you, then getting a shepherd mix is probably not what you want to do. Kind of things like that. It's always like this big thing between, a dog that you're drawn to and a dog that's good for you. And there's also, if you do decide, this dog may not be the best match for me, but I really want this breed or this dog, then the next question to ask yourself is, if things go wrong, am I going to have the patience and time to work with that dog and fix the issues and fix my issues, right? So that's always the question. Because your dog's a family member. It's going to be around for at least a decade if you're lucky. At least. You don't want to make the decision on a whim. A lot of people do, and they end up with great dogs. So it's not like it can't work. I'm the kind of person who just likes to think about stuff in advance and kind of make a good decision. I know that's not everybody. All right, so just putting some little pink highlights, little bright highlights on the front of this braid. We have to make sure it still looks red, so I have to go around the side here. What I'm going to do is use my lightest pink, and I'm going to do kind of just a kind of little tiny highlight, little tiny highlight just on the edge. And I've got, my this is my Da Vinci Maestro brush, so it can do a really fine line. And then I can go in wherever it looks like it's losing some of its red tone. I can take my heraldic red and bring that in a little stronger so that I can keep the red look, right? It has to still look red. But that's a totally feasible way to do this, is put your little, really light pink highlights on, but then glaze red over the top, and you can keep that red look, but you still have your highlights. Yeah, I really like Irish Wolfhounds. I grew up in a neighborhood with one. His name was Ivan. He was cool. Cool dog. And pretty chill. Had 3 kids. They had 3 little boys. He was a good pet. I liked him. All right, so a little bit of highlight down there, just a little bit on that one. Again, keeping the highlights really small means it still looks red. Alrighty. So just little highlights there to kind of bring it up. Now, if I bring it up too high, it's going to look like shiny cloth, which is fine because these could be little satin facings or something like that, you know. Since they're an accent, the cloth could be a shinier cloth. And so we got to just ask ourselves if that's what we want. If not, then glazing is, again, an option. Just a little bit of highlight there. There, still looks red. The test is, does it still look red or does it look pink? And that's what you ask yourself. Then we got to go to our back. We got a lot to do back here. Now, there's a bit of a shadow on this one. So I'm just going to use my straight up red here to make that a little darker. I'm going to add a little walnut. Walnut can always be used as a shader. It's better than black because it's got those oxide pigments in it to cut that black effect a little bit. I find that walnut, if you're just looking for a grayish shadow, walnut is a great choice to mix with almost everything. Maybe not quite as good with yellows because it tends to pull them green. So first let's get a nice solid coat on this. And I'm going to touch up that bow as well. I really just threw a base coat on back here over the underpainting, and I didn't come back to it till now. My red's a bit thin, so it's really not gonna, I don't want it to totally cover up my underpainting. Yes, finished Spits. The ones that look like little foxes. I always thought they were adorable. Talkie dogs. A lot of Spitz breeds are like that. Vocal. Samoyeds are the same. Very talky, very woo-woo. Lots of woo-woos. I don't know. I don't like a barky dog, but I do like dogs that like woo at you. Like the kind of vocal dogs. It's not yappy, but I like the woo-woos. Alrighty. Yeah, well, it does build character, Valendar. I mean, I definitely had a dog that was a lot of trouble and that I had to rehabilitate. And I learned a lot. But not everybody is willing to put in the work or has the time to. Like, I spent a lot of time and energy on that. And that's why I'm like, you know, you want to roll your dice. Roll your dice. And you may get lucky. You may get lucky. That's always possible. Or you may not. You may end up with a character with a 4 and 2 6s. Yes. Oh, was it a pun? Oh, sorry. Builds character. Yeah, I like rolling. It's funny too because I'm a very planner person for some things, but for character building, I do like rolling dice. You're right. Yes. It's really hard to get puns because you don't get on a stream unless they're really, really the kind that make you groan and are obvious. Because you don't get the verbal emphasis, right? Usually when you're punning, you have a very slight verbal emphasis that emphasizes the pun. But especially when I'm trying to do highlighting at the same time, I'm not going to always spot it. Yeah, graphic. Yeah, I always liked finished Spits as a kid, but they're just like, that was one where I never ever knew anybody who bred that breed around. But I do think they're adorable. If you guys go Google finished Spits, they are really, really cute. If you like foxes, the finished Spits is gonna kick in your fox vibe. Although apparently They do have a very bratty rep as far as their temperaments go among dog people. So I don't know. All I know is that I knew a dog temperament evaluator person who was just like, arg, finish spits. Arg, why? I never got it, but then I didn't know, you know. Are they bratty? Like, you know one graphic. Oh, yeah. Aunt May. Yep. Yeah, that's pretty terrible, Valandar. You're right. Some games, yeah, points buy is an advantage for sure. I like random, but I like random where I get a little bit of choice, so I tend to go for the 46 drop lowest. 46 drop lowest, roll one extra stat. And that usually, you know, you still can get like wildly good or wildly bad results, but you have a little bit of a buffer there to you know, poke at your character and make it a little bit more playable. Floofy Shiba Inu. Yeah. Yeah, they are. Not really bratty, loves to be around people. Oh, okay. Well, sounds like that's a great temperament dog. Sounds very Samoyed-like, actually. Sammys are good dogs. But oh my god, all that fluff. Alright. So you got that red blocked in. Now I can start highlighting the bow. Oh, yeah. Yeah, and place them where you want them. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, all characters 3d6 in order. Yeah, and you just never... And nobody would ever be a paladin. Because nobody would ever roll that 17 charisma. And if you did roll that 17 charisma, you had to be a paladin. Right, yeah. I mean, if you're a point now, I guess. Okay, so if you're playing a game where the point is to have the parties really be like everyman at the beginning, and then if you have like an attribute increase system as they progress, like D&D fourth and fifth have programmed in, where you get a attribute point every 2 levels or something, like then I could see maybe starting that way and just crafting your character. D&D's just with the class system, it's not very forgiving that way. Yeah, and third. So I could see it might be fun if your party was into that. It might be fun to do the old school dice rolls, and then through adventuring just become like much more competent and much more powerful. Like build the attribute build into the game a little more, like house rule it a little bit, and run that kind of thing where you start out as literal town incompetence, and then you yeah. Well, yeah, it's the best way. I'm just thinking about how you could do it with D&D. You just have to like, you know, twitch some things. Tweak it a little. And you'd have to keep the challenges pretty low at first. So if I'm going to do little bright pinpoints of highlights or edge highlights, then it's going to look more like a satin bow. So like if we start highlighting this bow as if it's more, think about it being more like metal, where you've got an edge that's bright. And then it starts to look shinier. Right. Yeah, no, I am attracted by such like things. Just the thought of the D&D, you know, town noob to superhero kind of curve. I think it would be fun to, like, you know, make it almost a comedy campaign where you really do start out as the town drunkards. Maybe you've all been thrown into jail to cool off. And then the monsters attack. Oh, little bit of bleed there. Didn't have control of my paint. But yeah, I always have liked those campaigns that really feel like you really start out as, like, maybe nobody really special. All right. In some ways, I feel like I kind of liked White Wolf's take on that, where you had, like, a nature, like your nature and your demeanor, which is, you know, your outside personality, like what you show to people, and then the way you really are, like the thing that really makes you tick. And you would get XP for being true to yourself, like really playing your character true to your nature. But you didn't have to tell anybody your nature. You mostly were playing your demeanor, and so you could have them very different. It was interesting mechanic. So it would be kind of cool to start, like, a party that was very much, like, kind of on the low totem pole as far as, like, respectability in town, in a little town or a little village, and then pretty much give them, like, one heroic nature, one particular heroic nature, and, like, build everything from that. And they get XP by, you know, being true to their nature. That way they get extra XP. So that even if they're playing, like, the kind of the funny town drunken uncle, they can still, like, if their nature is to be, like, brave, you know, or whatever, or to protect people, then they can, even if they're a total failure in life otherwise, they can still get XP through that and build themselves into a better, you know, a more powerful person. That would be funny. Like, I almost want a character that's like the crazy cat lady. You could have the eccentric spinster, and you could, like, the crazy cat lady as a character. Could start her out. Maybe she's a crazy cat lady before her time. And then, you know, but her nature is to, like, do something cool and mind-blowing, and so when the monsters attack, she rises to the occasion. All right, so kind of bringing up the highlights to be real sharp and shiny on the red. I don't have a pure white, so I haven't popped it that way. And if I want it to be reflective, I'll need to add a little bit of highlight down below as well. Now it's going a bit pink, so you've gotten a little bit too much. So now we'll take our red and we'll glaze to bring it back down. Hey, Grey Wolf, thanks. 17 months. Awesome. Thank you so much. We do love the subs. Anne loves the subs. We're trying to turn around this Monday and make it something worthwhile. So thank you for the sub. So a glaze of red keeps our highlights, but reddens everything down. Knocks our pink down a level. You can still see that highlight, but it's now everything reads more as red. And that's really the key there. When your red starts to get out of control, whether it's getting too orange or too pink, but especially works on too pink, to just throw that glaze over the top. And that'll make it much more red. You can still see all the highlights, but it's come around. So now I want to highlight a little bit more over here. And then I want to do bits of the hat that I missed. A little bit of highlight there to accentuate that seam line. A little bit there. Need a little bit down here. A little bit highlights there, where it comes out from under that shadow and down there. There we go. So that's nice. Getting our red under control here. Now I need to deal with this a little bit. Kind of just blocked in some red underneath that cool lion face and left it. So I'm going to darken that down with just a quick layer of the original red. Kind of deepen the color, make it a little more solid. I want to mix my red with a bit of walnut. Remember, that's a good natural shader for just about everything. It makes, in this case, kind of a purpley dark reddish black. And I can use that to put a bit of a shadow underneath the lion's head, even down into that area right there. So we can see that shadow. It makes the lion's head look more solid. I'm going to make sure I've got my lining up here on top behind the lion's head. I've got a little bit of a gap there. Want to tackle that. Alrighty. I think that's about right. Got a little bit of bleed over on my gold here. There we go. Now let's get a little bit of a highlight down there where we can see light. A little bit of extra light there. I'm gonna have to glaze this again because it's going a little pink. Just want to bring up a little bit of light. Don't want it to wash out too much though. We definitely have a pink ribbon here now. So we got to go back to our glaze after that dries and put it over our areas. We can still see some light then, but we have more of a red. I think everything in here I did pretty well. So a little bit more down here on the bottom. There. But I think otherwise we have our reds. Red's looking good. Awesome. Woohoo! And we've got, you know, maybe 20 more minutes. I'm going to mix up some quick gold. I want to work just a little bit, or maybe I should just do the lace. Yeah, let's do the lace. That's easier. A little bit easier. And I think I want, yeah, use creamy ivory. Now I do lack a little bit, like there's definitely some white primer showing in up here on this particular color. So I think I'm gonna grab my some desert sand, which is really close to this off-white. And I'm gonna kind of touch up some of that area that didn't, thank you, Karnika. I'm gonna touch up some of this area that I can see a little bit of white primer still. Not really solid on that end. It's really solid on the other side, but here it didn't quite take in some areas. So you can see where I've got, it's just not a solid base color. So I'm gonna get this color mixed up a bit. And I'm not going to worry if it's too close to my initial color, because I'm going to be putting white over the front. But I need all these little holes to be filled in. So the first thing I'm going to do is go in with a little bit of shadow here. I do need to thin that a little. Sometimes you want your paint to be a little thinner. When you're trying to get your paint off the end of your brush to do these little fine details or to fill in these little holes and things, a little extra water goes a long way. You still need to have control on your brush. You still need to unload your brush. But sometimes if it's not going into this, like you bring in the dark paint and it's not filling this little hole, then you know that you need to do something to it. So I just brought in the dark and that filled in that really solidly. Sometimes the paint is just a little bit too thick to go into these little tiny details, and you need to thin it just a bit. If your paint doesn't want to come off your brush, it's a little too thick. See, now we're getting a nice solid stuff. Today is Da Vinci. It's Da Vinci Maestro Day. I opened up a new one because my old one was dying, finally. So I have a fresh new Maestro working today, which, as you can see throughout this stream, has let me do some pretty fine stuff. Just a solid brush for pretty much everything. If you like to use thinner paint like I do. If you like to use thicker paint, then you may not like it as much. David, I think he was like, he's coming around to my brush choices, but there's still like some brands he likes a little bit more. Now I blurfed a little on the top of that, but that's okay. I'm lining just across the top. I'm all right with that because I'm going to be putting white over that anyway. Yeah. There is one more thing, and those are these little tiny dots here. There are tiny, tiny dots, holes. And I have them on this side, but I lost them on this side, probably because everything was much more white on this side. So I can try to get those little pinpoint dots and to fill them in. The key to this is thinner paint and very little paint on the brush, folks. Unload your brush. If you are on my Patreon, patreon.com/paintingbig, look at the unloading your brush video from, I think, last year. Probably the single most important video I have ever done on anything as far as how to control your paint. She's getting there, lady. She's getting there. Yeah, hopefully Reaper brings this one back at some point. If only for another ReaperCon exclusive, just to let people get it if they didn't get it. All right, good enough. Good enough, I think. So now we've got those little dots in. And we've mostly filled in the little holes. So now we can bring in some off-white. And start highlighting this sucker to bring that lace up. I'm going to use Creamy Ivory just off the cuff. It's not what we used last time, but I'm using it anyway because I've got it right here on my thingy. That should be fine. Gonna thin it a little bit, but it has a lot of white in it, so it should hold up to thinning really well. Creamy Ivory is one of those yellowish off-whites that you can use as a general highlighter. That's it. Although I like Osirian Sand just a little bit more because it's a little more yellow, a little less brown. And I'm actually doing a PDF about that as we speak. Doing the final swatches for that today. Should be up today or tomorrow. It's been kind of a disrupted June for me. But I have all sorts of stuff in progress right now that I need to wrap up by the end of the month. So we'll come back and do the gold on the lion head maybe next time. And the hat, because I do have definite, a lot of gold to do. So I'm just going to start out by just doing these lines. See where that little bit comes up? I'm just going to do the line pretty much all the way down. It's just easier to paint just that straight line and fill in that area. And then with this, it's just very simple to use the side of your brush. Just kind of dab the top of each of those little rings. And again, unloading your brush is key for this. All these little details must unload the paint off your brush. So just with that little highlight, the lace looks great. The last highlight I will do will be to put a little dab of highlight on the bottom side of each of these little holes so you can see. For a lot of the bottom of the lace, I might do the bottom edge or I might not. And again, I'm just taking most of the paint off my brush by dabbing it against the palette side. You may need to use, a lot of wet palette painters will use their fingernail to unload at that point. Oh, I accidentally blorfed. Got to fill in that little white line that I got right there. But yeah, next time let's do the gold lion. The lion's head. And that gives you your highlights and it makes it look very intricate, right? By doing that little line right at the beginning and then a dab, dab. And now it's it looks more intricate. It looks like lace because we've added that extra amount of detailing. On a very highlighted area, I would also maybe add like over here, I might add a light line along the bottom because that's the hat is turned upward there. So I might do that. No, Lionhead's just base coated and lined, Pendrake. It's not gold. Compare to shoulder. Shoulder pad is, epaulette is finished. Lionhead is barely touched. It's got to look metallic. It doesn't look metallic yet. So this this creamy ivory is thinned about 2 to 1, which is turning out to be about perfect for this kind of treatment. So once again, I'm going to line my brush up with these little bumps. And I'm going to do top to bottom, or bottom to top rather. Bottom to top, solid line. Just like I did over here. Reload my brush here and there. Lionhead needs to be much shinier, as do the ribbons on either side of him. As this starts to turn, I'm going to fade away and stop doing my little lines as it starts to go under here. Might just hit the top part of that. There. And then we'll come back and do the same thing we did on the other one. We will hit the top of each of these little mounds. And by leaving some of the shadow color, this the darker cream color, the brownish tan, by leaving some of that and only doing the white highlights in little specific places, that's how you get that lacy look. Let's see here. Just trying to get a little extra pop on some of these. All right, and a little bit on the bottom edge there, or the bottom underneath these little crescent-shaped bits. But see how putting that little tiny dots, the little tiny dark dots back in, that's accelerated the look of lace, right? Hey there, bots. I sometimes do like a base sculpting bots, but in general, I do my green stuff work on a different channel, my own channel, the Painting Big Twitch. But in fact, I think I have a green work. If you're interested in green stuff, I do have a video up on my Painting Big, 2 words, Twitch TV. Otherwise, the only green work I really do here is gap filling and stuff like that. So. Or sculpting basing. Sometimes I want to do a bigger base on a model I really like, and I'll do green stuff and cork and a bunch of other stuff just to block that together and show people how to do that. But otherwise, as far as model sculpting, no. Quindy, do we have anybody? We had, if you look up Clever Crow's show, Crow's Nest bots, Crow's Nest, Michael was learning how to sculpt from Jason, right? I think we have a few, do we have a few videos of that? Because that really is a like starting sculpting and learning kind of video. So for a few episodes, does the Crow's Nest episode say learning sculpting, Quindy? All of our shows go up on our Reaper Miniatures YouTube after we do them, bots. So 3 videos on Crow's Nest with the sculpting. Jason Weeby is one of our like professional sculptors for Reaper and has worked with us for like, over a decade, well over a decade. And he, Michael Proctor, whose stream is What the Crow's Nest Is, was getting tips for sculpting. A lot of times these days, bots, everybody's gone to ZBrush. Everybody's gone digital. But there are a few sculptors out there that are still working in green. And at least on Michael's stream, yeah. Michael's stream is Jason, like, talking him through it. Does Trey, guys? Does Redbox, Trey Manor, does he do Twitch? I thought there was somebody that was doing Twitch that does green still. Help me, Reaper community. You are my only hope. Siocast is, Reaper uses Siocast, but Siocast is, it's still a green or a 3D digital sculpt, and it's just, like, produced in Siocast. So it's like Siocast is a replacement for Reaper for spin casting. Yeah. Yep. Reaper is big into Siocast. In fact, a Siocast company told us that as far as miniatures companies in the USA, we are the biggest company currently invested in Siocast. All the Bones USA stuff is Siocast. No problem, Quinny. We're looking at Crow's Nest, but it sounds like Bots is actually a more experienced sculptor. I don't think greenwork has evolved and gotten better, but I don't know that it's changed much. Yeah, we have several Siocast machines, Bots. Sure. Good luck. Alrighty, little tiny highlights, just a bit. And paying attention to these little details just gives you an additional layer of just intricacy. So, like Easter eggs, like people will notice that your lace looks like lace, but then they'll get closer and then they'll be like, oh, there's all the painted detail in there as well. So this is in shadow, but let's see how in shadow it really is. Yeah, I could still do a highlighting up here. I'll do a little bit of highlighting on this side of the hat, even though my light sourcing is coming in from the opposite direction, just for reflected light. I might mix up a slightly darker color, though. So I'll take some of my creamy ivory over, and I will get, well, my allergies are starting up, you can see it. And I'm going to mix a little bit of walnut into it to darken it. So instead of going with this, I'll be going with this. And this is what I mean with walnut being a good natural shader. Adding a tiny bit of walnut tends to create a convincing shadow color. Oh yeah. Yeah, it's a bust. Hold on. Here you go. So yeah, this is a ReaperCon exclusive from last year. I just decided, oh, I blurfed my paper. It's a good thing I've got lots of extra paper. But yeah, so she's a bust. I hadn't painted a bust on the stream, bots, because Reaper doesn't do very many of them. But I really liked this one, and we had a couple of copies from ReaperCon last year, so I decided to do it. So yeah, I still need to get that lace done. But yeah, so we're just working on it. She's coming along. She's getting more and more done. Oh, good. Yeah, this show is every weekday morning, bots, and then Crow's Nest, and we have Luca from Miniatures Den in Europe comes over and does a show for us also, and we've got a terrain show. Yeah, she's very anime right now. Like, I think she looks like a Pixar character. Almost time for the checklist, Grey Wolf. I feel like I'm still like, I need to get the gold. I feel like after I tackle the gold, then I'll take a look at her and I'll have a little checklist to do. But I mean, we haven't done the blue at all. That's going to be wool though, and wool is fast because it's stippling. Yeah. Yeah, and then Rhonda, or two Central today, it's Rhonda, who's also a painter. So yeah, we do a bunch of shows. I'm the only everyday show, because you know I I freelance, so I have the time. But then yeah, we have a lot of other people on the Reaper channel. I suspect the only reason we don't like have a sculptor, like I think the green stuff sculptors definitely are getting rarer. We use most of them have moved to 3D, but not all of them. Julie Guthrie and Bob Rodolphe, who often are on this stream, actually just like as spectators, they still work in green. But they don't do Twitch on their own. They would say they are more technically challenged. So just a little bit of highlighting here. Again, I'm going to start with that center part. Oh yeah, you want to look on Reaper Miniatures YouTube, because all of our shows go on our YouTube, go on Reaper Miniatures YouTube after they're done. So that's why I say you could go over to our YouTube, look for Crow's Nest, and find those 3 sculpting episodes. Quindy might be able to do it too. But yeah, Reaper does kind of a Reaper TV thing, so we have several shows on this channel. I'm going to just try to highlight closer to the top as I get around to the shadow area here, where I'm not doing the whole thing. Yeah. A lot of sculptors seem to like it if you're doing it for a business, because, they can make changes very easily in ZBrush, much more easily if the company wants a significant change. So depends on if you're just doing it for fun or yourself, or if you're actually a freelancer who wants to hire out, or what your goal is for sculpting. But the industry seems to be going, as far as working for companies goes, or being a freelance sculptor, the industry seems to be going to digital. In general. But yeah, there's still people, I think Andy Pieper still works in green. Bob and Julie work in green. The Reaper sculptors I am not doing Winsor & Newton. I'm not a big fan of the Winsor & Newton brushes. Lately, I have been doing a combination of using the Reaper Zero. I've actually been using this brush quite a bit lately. And then, I think I used it all in my last stream. So there's the Reaper. It's a little bit more wide, though. The brush on the left is actually the shape I prefer. It's why I don't use as many Reaper Kalinskis anymore. I like a very long, thin brush because I thin my paint an awful lot, and the thinner brush is a little bit easier to unload after you thin your paint a lot. So this is a Da Vinci Maestro, also a Kalinsky, Series 10, size 1. See, I do a mix. Usually I'm a Da Vinci girl, but I also have some Raphael Kalinskis. So I have my monster brush. Monster brush is huge. So I swap back and forth depending on what I'm painting and what I feel like. But I would say that as far as branding goes, I'm a Da Vinci or Raphael Kalinsky girl. I used to use a lot of Winsor & Newtons, but I don't as much anymore. I know a lot of people who do, though. Oh, right. Those drakes. Yeah. Yeah, I hear a lot of, as sculptors get older, they like to go digital because they can actually zoom in on parts, and it's not all about the tiny fine motor coordination anymore. A little bit of highlight in here. So I want a little bit of highlight still here, but I just don't want it as bright. So I'm bringing it up, but it's not as bright. See how bright it is over here? And then it is still dimmer on this side. What number Da Vinci's? I like the 8408, which is the tapered. 8408 is the series, and that's the tapered round. I have a 0 and I have 1s, but you can see how long and thin these brushes are. And the 8404 series Raphael is a thicker bodied brush, like the big guy that I just showed a minute ago. It doesn't have that really long, thin taper at the end. Again, if you use really thin paint like I do all the time, You may get more mileage out of a brush that is longer and thinner. And if you use thicker paints, you're going to like the Reaper, which is a thicker bodied brush, or like a thicker bodied Raphael, or you could go with a more round, full bellied brush is what they call it. So I find that that's how I would quantify it if I were, teaching a brand new painter. I would pretty much ask them if they like to work with thicker paint or thinner paint, and to choose their brushes accordingly. Because any Kolinsky is going to have a good tip, so it's going to do detail for you. But if you work with a lot of very thin paint, it's going to take you so long to unload one of those full-bellied brushes. It's going to be frustrating, and you're probably going to be tempted to rush and not get as good of a result. Whereas if you work with thicker paint, you want to keep the paint wet in your brush longer. So using a big, thick-bodied brush makes sense. That's going to work. You don't have to worry about that with thin paint because you've got that water in your brush that's, there, because you've thinned the paint so much. You've got all that water keeping your paint wet. So I don't have to worry about my paint drying on this tiny tip because there's a lot of water in it and it's keeping it wet. So that's the science behind it. Yeah, that's why a lot of our older sculptors are going to digital, just because Bobby Jackson and Jason Wiebe and all them and Gene Van Horn, they all went digital, just because then the eyesight is no longer a factor. You can get as close as you need to on the computer monitor. And your tiny details are suddenly huge once you blow them up. Sadly, we painters cannot have that. We have to just suck it up. All right, so a nice bit of highlighting here on this side. I'll do the back. Let's see. It looks like I lost some dots. Definitely lost some dots over here. Didn't get a lot of coverage back here. Actually, most mini painting brushes are just repurposed watercolor brushes. These brushes I use are watercolor painting brushes. It's just that people have adopted them for painting miniatures, so the knowledge is out there. A brush that you see online that says miniature series is actually not made for miniatures. That's actually a particular shape of brush, especially with the Winsor & Newtons. But it's not meant for miniature painting. It usually implies a shorter bristle, which is why they're calling it a miniature. I don't know. I think it's a misnomer, but I always have to tell people that, because an example of a miniature series... Oh, yeah, you're right. I did go way over. But an example of, the Winsor & Newton miniature series brushes are shaped more like this. They're very wedge-shaped, very short. Here, let me put this all up together. Let's be useful today. Get them all wet so you can see the difference. And just line them up. Right, but yeah, it's a miniature series, but it's totally not for miniatures, actually. So a miniature series brush is going to be a wedge. It's going to be thicker at the bottom. It's going to have a fat body. And it's going to taper. It's not really going to bulge out and go back. Traditional round looks like this. It is a wider at the base, but not as wide as the miniature series brush. And it does have a longer, thinner taper toward the tip. And then my Da Vinci, which is currently looking really wonky because I put water in it. Right, yeah. So then you've got your final, which is the longer bristle that I like, which is the pointed round. Although for Da Vinci, they call this a standard round. It's just the way that their brushes are shaped, but you can see the difference. And the difference is in how much taper you get toward the tip. You can see, even if you cover up most of the brush, you lose the length, but you can see that the one on the left is still the widest and tapers quickly. The next one has a more gradual taper, and the last one is very thin. Does that illustrate the differences for you guys? But yeah, they're for miniature paintings, not miniature painting. The art companies still don't know we exist. Although, funnily, they are adapting paints that were created like more for our art form and doing like more liquid acrylics, right? Which totally comes from more of our art form. All right, so I've got a time check, so I'm actually going to stop here, guys. We did some good progress today and had a little bit of brush talk at the end. I like showing the difference between the different bodied brushes. Yeah, well, there might be puppies today, all right, guys? I have to keep checking my phone and seeing, I assume that Bridget will text me if puppies are imminent. So let's just cross fingers and hope for puppies by tomorrow, okay? Yeah, I'm hoping for some good pupper news, too. Otherwise, it's just a Monday. It's just a Monday. I have a crap ton to do. All right, guys. Yep, remember, Rhonda will be on in a little bit at 2 p.m. USA Central Time. I hope you guys all have a fantastic rest of your day, and I'll see you tomorrow morning. Bye-bye.